For a long time, I've enjoyed doing a bit of art, particularly drawing, and I've found that as well as just enjoying it, it really relaxes me. It does me a lot of good. And I gained some insights into why it was so relaxing for me when I was trying to learn and improve my drawing skills and heard about the idea of trying to draw with the right side of your brain. And the theory goes that the left side of your brain, which is more linguistic and does language, deals with words, which it certainly does from a physiological point of view, is kind of more impatient, it's more logical, it thinks it knows best and it wants to get to an answer and a solution quite quickly, which is not ideal for art. So if you draw an eye, say, with the left side of your brain, then your left side of your brain is saying, well, I know what an eye looks like. It's got an upper lid, so I'm going to draw that. And it's got a lower lid. And then I know that the iris is round, so it draws a round iris and puts that in the eye. And then it says, well, I know that the pupil is round, so it puts a round pupil in the middle. And then maybe it says, well, I know that the iris sort of has these little lines that come from the edge, and that we've got eyelashes, so it puts a few eyelashes in, and you end up with an eye that looks like that. And you can tell it's an eye, it's got all the component parts of an eye, but it doesn't look like the eye you were trying to draw. And the left side of the brain can get very frustrated and think, well, I'm a rubbish artist, I've got art, I can't do it, because it's kind of rushed it and it's done it with logic and words rather than with more sort of shape and feeling. So what about the right side of the brain? So the theory goes that the right side of the brain is happier to just get lost in the abstract, in the form. So it looks, take a picture of an eye, which I've got here, and it will say, well, actually the top lid is not round. It sort of goes up a little bit there, and then it kind of is fairly flat here in this man's eye, and then it comes down and around like that. And actually the bottom lid doesn't go all the way over. Isn't that interesting? So it sort of notices that there's a shape like that, and we can see that the eye comes a little bit more like that. And then it looks at the iris and realizes it's not round at all. Actually, the iris in this man is very flat on the top because most of it's hidden by his upper lid, and it sort of comes down like this, and then it goes down on the other side. And in fact, the pupil isn't round. It's not in the middle. It's not round. I mean, it is round. It doesn't actually look round because it's got a little chunk taken out of it because of the little bit of light that's coming. And in fact, the pupil in this man's eye comes pretty much to the top and has a little chunk missing from it. And then I can see that actually the top lid isn't two lids. It isn't one line, it's two, although they kind of come together. So at one point there's a second line, which goes here, and then it pretty much comes together with the other line. And then I can see that the pupil, the iris, has got a dark ring around the outside. So I can put that in. It's definitely dark around the outside, fairly circular fashion. And that the rest of the iris is just a sort of slightly lighter colour. And that it's really dark because he's got a very heavy eyelid. It's kind of overhanging. And then I can see there's a bit of shadow that we need going up towards the nose here. When I'm drawing with the right side of my brain, I'm often looking at what are called negative shapes, so not the shape of the iris that I know is round, but the triangular shape between the eye and the corner of the eye. And then, over a bit of time, I'll end up with an eye more like that, that then starts to look like the eye in front of me. And if I did it even more slowly, and if I wasn't talking at the time, then I'd be able to really make it look like the eye of the person that I'm drawing. At least the best stab as I can with my drawing. And what's really interesting is when I do that, and if I were to do that without talking, I would get absorbed in it. I'd get completely lost in it. I'd lose track of what was going on elsewhere. I'd lose track of time. When I used to have to pick my children up from school, if I was going to do a bit of art beforehand, I'd have to set an alarm because I could lose complete track of time and not know what was going on. I could easily fail to pick them up because I'm so absorbed. It's like the talking bit of my brain has shut down and I'm just spending time thinking, what's that shape? How does that line go? How does this bit go? And because my right side of the brain is so engaged in that very abstract process, so my thoughts all shut down and my brain is really allowed to relax, and I'm no longer full of worries or jobs I've got to do or impatient things that need to be done. So I'm not saying that everyone should take up art, because that's not for everyone, but I think everyone has a right side of the brain activity and it's different for different people. So for instance, one of my partners at work, when she goes running, she is in a right side of the brain activity. She loses track. She's just absorbed. She can't really tell you what she's been thinking about. Now, I haven't done a lot of running, but I trained for a marathon once many years ago. And when I went running, I'd get bored. My brain would be saying, what am I going to think about now? I'd just be, counting the miles, thinking about how fast I was going. I could not get into the right side of my brain when I was running, but she could. That was her right side of the brain activity, or one of her many right side of the brain activities. For me, gardening is another right side of the brain activity, but it's not for everyone. It might be that it's music, playing music. It might be listening to music. It might be doing a puzzle like a Sudoku puzzle. Something that gets you fully absorbed. You might need a range of them, because gardening doesn't work all the time, because sometimes it's chucking it down with rain. Sometimes I haven't got time to do a bit of art, but I might have time to just go and dig up a few weeds. So it helps to have a range of right side of the brain activities that you can do that really help you relax. So when you're thinking, how do I make my life sustainable? How do I bring my stress levels back so that I can be stressed when I need to be busy and thrive with being busy and doing something that's potentially quite stressful, but in between I can have times when I relax and really allow my brain to rest. So ask yourself, what's my right side of the brain activity? And when you work out what it is, do you find time for it? Or does it always get squeezed out by that busy, impatient left side of your brain? Give it a bit of thought.